where people come in and throw in their anxiety, I feel suffocated by all this dumping of emotions. And I already have a lot of emotions for myself, so then I cannot differentiate anymore between theirs and mine. And then I get this mess and I feel overwhelmed. It's much better where I get this group of people that are, first of all, very honest with me. Like if I say stupid stuff or I make projections or whatever, then I get real feedback. And here it's allowed to express myself. Like I'm not English speaking, so English is my third language. So even then, I'm trying to find words and express myself in my way. And then I get response on that and help for expressing myself. And that's really supportive for me. But flooding me with your emotions, that's not helping me anyway.
So if someone floods you with emotions, is that taking away your space to be yourself, find yourself, or orient yourself, maybe?
Yes. It's destabilizing.
So
it's invading. I feel it through my skin, and then there's this muddy mix of emotions, and most of the time it's really too much because people are dumping stuff that is highly intense, but that they intensify it themselves. So there's a lot of fluff and shit on top of that, which they make more intense, but it's not real. And that's very disorientating for me. So I feel unstable. And no air, no breathing. That's what's happening.
Yeah, no air. So space to breathe and space to find yourself and space to orient yourself. This is somewhat invisible. So if you go into a space where you're smothered, afterwards you can sort of feel and find yourself, and then you say, oh, this place was flooding me, or it was intense. So then you have to find yourself afterwards. This sort of healthy distance is hard to find in support groups, and it's hard to find in therapy sometimes, because if the therapist gets triggered, they're going to flood your space too.
Yeah, or they police me, and then I go into this fight, like I'm defiant.
So sometimes I think safe spaces is sort of a common pointer that's thrown out there, but maybe space, neutral space, space to make mistakes, space to not get rescued, space to not get an instant fix or slogan or interpretation from someone else. That might be something that's missing out there.
Or just the silence sometimes we have here.
Yeah, that's space. To me, that's space. Like I can go inside and everything around is silent. Then I can go inside and there's literally space. With no invasion. And
yes,
I like that.
No invasion. Yeah. So this neutral space, but also this space to be alone with someone else's aloneness. This is sort of high-level companionship.
That's really good.
Because maybe one part of trauma is that you feel isolated and alone. So when you have a supercharge of aloneness, you label that isolation as all bad or depressing until you have somebody else that can join you in the aloneness, because part of that aloneness is a place where you can find yourself again or settle into. And since it's been stigmatized by the trauma, by the relational conflict, we're in this tension, high-speed sense of time distortion and lack of space that becomes the norm. conversational, slower interaction feels kind of foreign. I'm trying to slow down from the in-person meeting because we had 2 new people. They're sort of friends. The one new person was a 12-step group member with Narcotics Anonymous, and her partner also had some addiction issues. She seemed more classically codependent, but then her friend was coming in as a codependent, but she was highly defensive and would argue that she wasn't defensive. And she was highly anxious, and she would argue that she wasn't anxious. And dissociating, and she would say she wasn't dissociating. So she played clueless baby, and then she was just arguing realities. It's a good refresher that when you're dealing with someone who has lack of empathy, who has narcissistic defenses, they're relentless. These gentle pleas for space and these gentle pleas for whatever, setting boundaries, they ignore it. They don't even hear it. She didn't see me. I was like telling her she didn't hear me, see me, hear me. I had to be aggressive to say she wasn't hearing me or hearing something different. And she just kept going. That's how someone with narcissistic injuries, that's how they act.
You know, I don't want to debate, but when you said, because I don't know this woman you were talking about, okay?
Mm-hmm.
When you said it was a narcissistic reaction.
Yeah.
My question was, how do you know if it's that or if it's a maladaptive coping strategy? And maybe she's not narcissist. Maybe it's just a maladaptive coping strategy.
My strategy is to assume she's not narcissist, because that's what she presented. And then over time, eventually out of her mouth, she stated something essentially that I gave the theory that maybe she doesn't like I statements because she doesn't want to reveal her feelings. She said she didn't like I statements because they didn't work.
Oh.
And then from that, she shared that I statements don't work because I stated what I wanted and the other person didn't change. And I said, wait.
That's over my...
Can you say that again?
That's over my head.
She stated an I statement. I feel you need to change, or I don't like that. You should change that. That was her I statement. It was an order to somebody else to change. And she did that to me in person. And I pointed that out. And she didn't see that. And then I said to her, like, do you hear what you're saying out of your mouth? And her friend, her face cringed because she, at least her unconscious, saw that she was admitting to narcissism. Because earlier in the conversation, I even talked to her about that. Like, narcissists, they don't see you. They see you as a pet. They see you as an object. As long as you do what they want, they're happy. So if you set boundaries, then they start acting out. So
yeah,
I didn't do what she wanted, and then she started escalating. Yeah. So I
have a lot to learn.
I let her talk, and I let her show herself. Then I caught something that seemed like a dissonance from her presentation versus her behavior. I called it out. And then she got angry.
Yeah.
Then she started gaslighting and changing stories and saying, you're disrespectful here or there, and started attacking me for being a horrible person. And then I said, oh, we can ask people in the group here. And then she didn't want to do that because that's third-party objectivity.
Yeah, well, there was quite a few things that happened that seemed quite extreme.
That's how narcissists defend their behavior. That's how they fight.
Yeah, it wasn't just like a codependency reaction by trying to tell you what to do, because some codependents will do that too, right?
Yes, they'll do it.
They
But
wanna-
typically when they do it, they're anxiety flooded and they're people pleasing. They're not like this, you must submit to me. They're not overwriting your story. It's a different feel.
Yeah. Okay.
But initially, your attention was caught like on, how did I see this? Is it proper? Is it dangerous? Or what other sort of underlying concerns were you having around spotting someone and considering them a narcissist?
Was that a question?
Yes. So where did your question come from?
Oh, well, I guess I was just, because I have trouble sometimes in evaluating. And so I'm trying to learn more so I can do it. So that I can kind of not, so I can be careful about.
So you can be careful. And then if you're more careful, then what kind of result or life change would you get? What kind of goal or specific goal are you trying to reach?
Well, a year and a half ago, I got out of a narcissist relationship. And it's taken me a year and a half to get to this point, and I'm still not, I'm not whole. So I'm trying to learn and develop my skills in being able to understand what people are before I, get closer to them.
People and others. Oh. Have you heard the different tips of emotional literacy or journaling or self-reflection?
Yes, I've done some journaling, self-reflection. I've done counseling. I've done dream work.
Okay.
I do meditation. I do yoga.
So sounds like you're somewhat active at trying different practices and communities.
I do a lot of reading, watching videos, and but I'm a trauma survivor all my life, so I have a lot of work, a lot of healing to do.
So it sounds like you've explored a lot of stuff. What if maybe it's the opposite? So one problem of doing too much healing work is your behavior is validating that you're broken. Or validated you're searching, but then what are you searching for? How precise are you in your aim, in your goal? If you're too scattershot in your healing growth practices, let's try this, try this, try this. What are you trying all this stuff? For what purpose? For what goal? For what aim?
I feel like I've made progress. I really do, because I had a lot of trauma in my childhood, and I didn't speak about any of this for years. So it's taken me years to even talk about it. I mean, all the work.
So you've learned to talk about it. Okay, that's a tangible sign of progress. I'll take that.
The work I've done, I really don't feel like it was, I feel like it was beneficial, because it really, I've become more aware. I really was very unaware of a lot of things. And
So you're more aware.
Okay.
Yeah.
but what I'm searching for at this point is I have, as Kelly talks about his anxiety, I have anxiety.
Oh, okay. So
And
you want to work on your anxiety, or you think you have excess anxiety?
well, I think I handled my anxiety I worked 44 years, 2 or 3 jobs at a
Mm,
time while raising children and doing other things, and, still trying to get help for myself. And I kept myself very busy. And now that I'm retired, kids are grown,
hmm
the narcissist is out of my life, that craziness.
Yeah.
I have all this free time, and I have this anxiety because I feel I know, I don't know if it's because I notice it now, because obviously I felt like I had nervous energy. So, um,
Uh-huh.
but
Nervous energy.
what?
Nervous energy. That's
Yeah,
a good description. Yeah.
yes. And now I'd like to have peaceful energy.
Aha. Okay. That's good. It's a description of the problem, and then a target of a change, peaceful energy. hmm So now that you've noticed you have this nervous energy, because you have more time to work on yourself, or you have less noise around you, is the anxiety around a certain theme, or is there patterns to this anxiety to better describe it, or?
Well, the theme I think is after the narcissist and I broke up a year and a half ago, I thought it was because of the breakup and that I felt lonely and I had issues around being alone.
Mm.
Okay. But
Oh,
now,
loneliness, okay.
but
But no.
I mean,
hmm
I'm very grateful though that this person isn't in my life because he abused me. And it was really, you know, um, I thought of a great word today and I can't think of it right now, but it was, I mean, it was really a traumatic situation, you know, and I had never experienced anybody like that before, and I never want to again.
Sure.
Um, so I thought it was because of the breakup, and they say a breakup with a narcissist is so traumatic that, it's a lot to get over. And I thought the anxiety had to do with that. But I feel like because I can intellectually feel that it's good that he's not in my life, I feel, much more relaxed without these fights that came up every day out of nowhere. Um,
Mm.
but I have this anxiety, and, I feel like it's really probably something from my childhood. And, from there, I'm guessing, I don't know. I'm considering now going to try the EMDR, because,
Mm.
well, my therapist had suggested it because she thought maybe it's a cellular thing. She thought maybe it's somatic, and I should be happy now. I'm retired. Not everybody's in a position that I am. I mean, I hope it lasts with the way the economy is. I have to be very careful, but I mean, I'm in a place that I'm fairly comfortable, but I'm, like, I don't
You're
know if
not
the word
happy.
is not happy, but
Oh, yeah.
you're not happy when you're just filled with anxiety.
Mm. Um, Anxiety. What do you think the purpose of anxiety is? Have you researched that angle? Or has any
See,
experts told you why, or why you might have a lot of anxiety, or what it's trying to communicate?
well, I asked it last night. I did ask my anxiety in my meditation. It
Mm.
told me that, it was there because I developed it with my hypervigilance as a child.
You developed it as a child with hypervigilance, and why is it that here now?
It's kind of it's connected to that hypervigilance.
Mm.
And now that I don't really have a need for hypervigilance in my life.
How about this framing? Let's say it did develop out of childhood, where you were hypervigilant because your anxiety was a heads up of looking for danger or trying to shapeshift to give the right answer. So that leads to hypervigilance, but the anxiety is adaptive because it's trying to prepare you to jump, prepare you to shut yourself down, prepare you to give the right answer or do the right behavior. So if you're alone now, you don't have a threat that's in front of your face because you're not having the arguments every day, right? But the anxiety was this this defense that's been around your whole life. So it's looking for dangers. It's looking for how to change. It's monitoring your system and like, how do I behave? What do I say? So it's still active and doing its job.
Yeah, I could feel it in my body.
Mm.
Yeah.
So if you feel it in your body, it's still active. When it's still active, maybe it's from IFS terminology, Hart's theory. Sometimes your defenses are stuck in the past. So this anxiety might think you're 10 years old or something. Does the anxiety feel like it's a young energy, or does it feel like an adult energy?
Yeah, I mean, I don't get a reading on that, but it feels like it's been around for a while.
So if it's been around for a while and it's been spotting for dangers and it's been good at being hypervigilant to keep you safe, it's not going to just suddenly disappear out of nowhere. It's still operating at, DEFCON 5. It's still on alert.
Okay, do I snap my fingers? No, like
Well, there's different approaches.
Bewitched.
So IFS would try to talk to the defenses and eventually get to the hurt feelings underneath the anxiety. In ISTDP, a different model, they would try to bring that anxiety up to see what feelings are underneath it, and then try to mobilize some of your impulses to try to integrate some of the unconscious content. EMDR might try to guide you into a visualization of some past traumatic memory, and then raise your subjective units of distress, SUDS level, closer to 8 to 10, and then they'll do the back and forth eye movement or sound protocol to try to get both of your hemispheres to integrate it.
Yeah, because I feel like I've done enough talk therapy, and that hasn't really resolved it. So I feel like it's something that's definitely not in my conscious awareness.
Not in your conscious awareness. Oh. So to try to link it to the broader theme is a lot of therapies focused on trauma, and they sort of put anxiety second. And I found anxiety first is something that's more practical. Because anxiety is more real time. And trauma tends to be trying to fight past or future. It's doing like it's fragmenting time. So you have a trauma from the past, and then you see this new person that triggers the old trauma. Then you try to control the trigger or ground your body so you don't get triggered. So it's a lot of this gaming of time. And ironically, anxiety is sort of our sense of time. So if you take away the story, if you have high anxiety, your sense of time and rhythm is probably off.
Well, I've been off, that's for sure.
Yeah.
After all these years, you know, it seems like, you know, the choices I've made have been off. So
So when your time is off, and that's also, I think, I've been trying to wrestle with you to try to get onto some sort of shared bridge to try to track where you are and then trying to build some shared definition. And then one thing I notice is when you answer, you're in your own bridge. And I'm trying to either join you or trying to get some shared one, and I'm sort of struggling. I think ISTDP might say this is like...
What does that mean? I mean...
What does it mean? That I'm struggling to try to find common ground with you?
Yeah.
I'm using a lot of work myself to try to build common ground with you, which is not... which takes extra energy. It's not a natural, conversational, safe, shared distance, like open conversation.
Yeah. Well, some words you're using I'm not familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
Some words you're using I'm not familiar with.
Okay.
So that I can't connect, you know, when I don't know all the words.
Just like I was saying I can't connect with you in shared language or bridge, and I'm spending a lot of energy to try to keep up with your pace or try to find your sense of time.
Okay.
And if I'm struggling and I'm talking about that, then likely it's contagious, so you might also be struggling.
I don't feel like it. To me, it's not like it's a struggle, though. I mean, it's like
Okay.
I wouldn't label it a struggle. I
There's
feel
really
like
only 4 or 5 different ways that...
Keep going. I was queuing up a future video.
Okay. Well, no, I don't want to go on about my stuff.
Well, no, we were getting to the conflict. So part of anxiety, when you feel anxiety, it's a sign that an inner conflict or an outer conflict is coming to the surface, is coming to awareness. So we typically try to quash the anxiety because the anxiety means conflict is around the corner. So since I was trying to describe the anxiety I was feeling, trying to get into shared time with you, it's increasing the feelings of conflict. So then you also trying to say, I don't want to increase conflict, is we're in anxiety together.
Oh.
And before the clip played, I was going to say one defense against anxiety is resistance to emotional closeness. It's a very common codependent and abuse survivor defense of avoiding emotional closeness. Intimacy is dangerous. So anytime you feel too vulnerable or you feel anxiety, you feel closeness is dangerous. So then you try to back off, shut down, dissociate. You do all these defenses against emotional closeness.
But I just didn't feel like I am. I feel like I'm just trying to have a conversation with you, trying to understand. And I didn't feel like it was, you know, it didn't feel like a conflict for me.
Mm-hmm. Is it possible that you could have one perspective and other people have a different perspective?
Yeah, I think so.
Is it possible that both perspectives have validity and truth?
Mm-hmm.
Is it uncomfortable to hold two different perspectives of the same conversation between us?
No, but I guess I thought I must have misunderstood. I was thinking that you were saying that I don't know. I guess I got confused.
I was describing my experience of trying to communicate with you.
Mm-hmm.
You might have a different experience. Sure. That's
Yeah.
totally valid.
Okay.
But I was describing my experience in addition to your earlier goal of saying right now you're working on trying to integrate your anxiety or keep your anxiety or get free from all this extra anxiety load.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want the goal of this, that means you might have to tolerate higher anxiety temporarily to figure out why it's here. And then in the long term, you might be free from anxiety. But the middle part means you have to increase it. That's the same process with EMDR. They're going to get you to activate your flashbacks. And when you integrate it post EMDR, it might be like 2-3 days or a week of flashbacks and nightmares and shit. So,
Oh, really?
yeah.
Oh. Well,
But after that, then it's integrated and you're free. But in the process of bringing up the unconscious stuff, it might bring up anxiety. That is not uncommon for EMDR.
okay. Well, I'll make sure I leave my calendar empty.
Yes,
When
and
I-
then the spiritual communities, they sometimes say there's a healing crisis. So when you finally relax and get some progress, sometimes flashbacks and a life crisis will come because your body is now relaxed enough to revisit the old trauma. So a lot of people freak out because, oh, I thought I made progress. And then you go backwards 5 steps because your body's finally stable. So then the memories come up and flood you.
Mm-hmm. Hmm. Okay. Well, I was reading, the book there, Van Volk's and whatever his name is, the body keeps score.
Bessel, Van der Kolk, okay.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
he and in the chapter about the EMDR, it's all positive so far. It's quite positive. I didn't see any negative yet
Oh,
in there.
I haven't read that book in a while, but I think if you were to parse out the some of the subtle side things, then you'll see that there's side effects, and it's not all sugar and cakes and roses. But a lot of times we read stuff, we want to read what we want to see, so we dismiss the potential side things. Wasn't there like earlier in the book about pictures of sexual abuse and how horrible those stories were? Did you read that part? Do you remember?
And it had to do with EMDR though?
It had to do with trauma.
Yeah, trauma, yeah.
EMDR is a trauma therapy, and EMDR can wake up old memories that have been dormant forever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I'm, it is quite a meaty book. And I've started it the beginning and read the beginning, then switched to a few other books. And now I've gone back and I'm into the middle section, which is talking about all the different work you can do. And so they're mentioning the EMDR to start. And I don't remember, those situations you're talking about. But he just was talking.
It's possible. Yeah, you came back to the book and then you jumped sections. So there are other sections that could contain more of the grittier parts of trauma healing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely. I just was, specifically looking at the EMDR, and I don't, it just seemed like it looked like the thing to try next.
Oh, do you still want to find some magic therapy that avoids pain and that shortcuts the healing process or something? Are you still in that phase of healing?
Well, no, I think this. I mean, I'm guessing EMDR. No, I think it will bring up pain. I just didn't know it was going to last for like a week or two. I
Well,
get,
it could.
The
The body keeps a score, and the body dictates the healing process. So some people it might be fast, some people it might take a much longer, drawn-out process.
Yeah.
If it takes your body a longer process, are you in a position that you want to postpone it or opt out or?
No.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna try it, definitely.
Yeah, see? So that's more of the attitude of success, which is part of the bigger theme. That a lot of people negotiate with their trauma and their anxiety, and that's using a very overly controlled strategy, which is very aggressive towards the body. It's very aggressive towards the nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
And if your nervous system is highly anxious, and you use a very aggressive nervous tension strategy, it's a bit unreasonable to think your anxiety is going to get down if you're going to be aggressive towards your nervous system.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I'm trying to be kind to myself, and nurture myself now, and doing all those nurturing things that we didn't do we for years.
For years.
What? Centuries.
Our group, maybe a month and a half ago or 2 months ago, we stumbled upon some tenderness baby energy in some of our members, and it's taken like months or years to get to that point, to try to wake up and rewaken up this tenderness, really early inner child energy of genuine tenderness that would generally have the soft touch of gentleness. Because you can tell yourself to be gentle, but if that's coming from a controlling, dominating, punitive space, it's not tender.
Yeah.
Yeah. So getting to that soft space of tenderness is a gentle touch. It's a gentle and a firm touch that often is missing in support groups and self-help groups, because they're not working on anxiety consciously. They're trying to control it.
Okay. So much to learn.
So much to learn.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. And then last week, Robbie had some of his scared shitless baby come up, and that was also stuff in the past. And then for him, I think, Robbie, you had this, tell me what to do, or you wanted to take charge and move forward, and that was your way of avoiding your scared shitless baby. Staying on this healing journey and being aggressive on that was a way to conquer it, but that actually was a way to escape yourself.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you.
We can go into more details of your insights in the after party, but is there a short version of some of what you learned from the recent trip for your scared shitless baby?
Found a lot out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Dug into when I'm first, what I think is disassociated from her in myself.
Disassociated in her and in yourself?
In me, myself, yeah. I think I did.
Could you summarize it or describe what you discovered that was dissociated? Or
I came back, and as soon as my key hit the door after she accused me of molesting my daughter, I think I disassociated myself from her.
Mm-hmm.
And that's whenever everything started to unravel for me, because I knew I shouldn't have came back. And I went and I came back and I gave into it. And I gave into my morals and my values and myself. And that's what I discovered.
So
And
let
that's
me
the first
see.
time I. That's the
You
first
had a
time I
memory
felt-
that maybe when you opened the door and then you went in, that's when you left yourself. Or that's when
Yes.
maybe you forced yourself to pretend or continue the pattern or meet your expectations, and you left your personal voice.
Yes. I think that was the time.
Or you caved to the scared shitless baby, maybe. So
Okay.
her threats and the family system overrode your personal voice.
Yes.
And then your actual behavior, turning the door, unlocking the key, was the pivotal shift, the linchpin
Yes.
for you.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mhm.
That's when everything changed for me.
Mhm.
I was never intimate with her ever. I never
Mhm.
touched her since then.
Yeah.
And that's the pivotal point for me. After
Mm-hmm.
everybody told me, don't ever come back, don't ever go back, I didn't listen to my own voice and the voice of my inner circle. And I came back because of my belief system. And actually, that was the worst thing I could have done. And I caved into myself.
Mhm.
And that's what has been the pain of my source. That's when I gave myself up.
You gave yourself up, or that was the big shift.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh. So could that shift be described, or that period of shift where you caved to scared shitless baby? You lost your voice and whatnot, but that you switched into a mode of just like teleological. So you started saying,
Yeah.
the next task I'll just robotically do, and the next task I'll robotically do. And that's sort of the mode you were talking to me in the last meeting. Like, give me the answer, Deef. Tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And like going, I don't know the answer
Yeah.
for you. I can't speak for your inner voice. I don't, not connected to your inner pain. So I tried to reflect back to you, yourself. And now you've discovered the time when you lost yourself.
Yes. That was the pivotal point.
Yeah. But
That's what I found
when you
out from myself.
discovered that pivotal point, when you were trying to figure out or stay in the uncertainty, because I wasn't giving you an answer, right?
Right.
Was your anxiety increased? Was your inner confusion increased? Was
Yeah.
it destabilizing?
Yes.
Yeah. So I didn't give you a rope and maybe I made you drown more. So that increased your anxiety, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was that what you meant and Punkage meant by consumed?
Yeah. Sometimes you get consumed by your anxiety, then you'll find who you are. If you just keep fighting the anxiety, which is saying you're lost, and just killing the feedback of saying, I need to figure out where I am. That's sort of what anxiety is trying to say. I need to figure out what's happening. If you just fight the anxiety, you're fighting your orientation process.
Yes.
Yeah.
But that,
And if you have years of fighting your anxiety, or years of just being teleological and just doing the next task and the next task and being a dutiful person, you have an overload of anxiety that you haven't felt. So the quickest way is to just get consumed by it.
Yeah.
But
So
if you get consumed by it, then a support group, they might feel that's traumatizing because you're reliving your anxiety, and they'll rescue you from getting consumed by your own anxiety. They won't let you be with yourself. You won't be able to see through the excess anxiety, and you'll just still be flailing around in the healing landscape of trying this, trying that, doing this, because without orienting yourself.
Yeah.
Without finding your footing, you're trying to find the next limb, but you don't even know where you are.
Thank you, Dave.
And it's unfortunate some people are flailing around for decades, and they just haven't taken the time to just crash. Let the anxiety flood and crash just to have a starting point. You're just floating around chasing after stuff, and you don't know where your starting point is.
Yeah. Also done some mirror work recently, so it's
Oh, the mirror work. Okay.
soft
How did that?
eyes.
Oh,
I saw
okay.
myself and I'm like, holy fuck, is that me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Scared.
So,
You were right. Scared shit.
suggested you to look at yourself in your own mirror and then see your own tension, and you're seeing how much nervous system and anxiety and fear that you're projecting naturally, that we see. But until you looked in the mirror, you didn't see yourself. See, this is also a success story that's intimidating to new people. Yeah.
Could I have projected out anxiety outward?
Yeah. If you're being fearful, and I'm seeing you talk from a fearful, paranoid space, it's easy for me to join you, to feel paranoid with you. Yeah.
Okay.
To give you fixes that are short-term and urgent, flooded to match your paranoia. Yeah.
Okay.
And then you won't feel alone in your paranoia, but it's because I just joined you in your drowning. How useful is that? I don't know. It's very intimate, but it's not very useful. Yeah.
Okay. Am I making progress then? I feel like I'm making progress.
You feel like you're making it. So one of the challenges.
How's that on everybody else? Am I
making sense?
How am I coming across? Right. How am I coming across?
Are people in the group following Robbie's story? Do they notice a change, or is it comprehensible? Is it logical? Does it feel the same level of energy of the past, or is it more?
No.
Any changes?
More relaxed. Still a little guarded, but still a lot less defensive to me. It feels. And it feels good.
Yes.
Mm.
Thank you.
Nice to see.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, that energy of drowning, like Dave was expressing, I could feel that the whole time, and that's gone. So you're not in that space of drowning anymore. So drowning. I don't have this idea like, oh, sitting like this. I didn't do that because I know you were still in that space and you needed time, but it's gone. So that energy is gone, and it's you're far more present now.
I'm still feeling the pain of it in my heart and my soul.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I betrayed myself. That sort of pain. I betrayed myself.
Betrayal pain. That's a big wound, very hard to get over. But
yes.
That's a great starting point.
What you share is real. I can feel it, and it's very vulnerable and courageous to share this and to show this.
Thank you, Chantel.
You're welcome.
So one of the problems of modern therapy and modern self-help groups is we focus too much on the trauma instead of the anxiety. And then also by focusing on the trauma, sometimes that gives us permission to focus on urgent short-term fixes. Because it's trauma. Gotta survive. So urgency, paranoia, aggressive fixes, short-term thinking is allowed in a traumatic mindset. Less attention is on orientation. How do I find my sense of calm? Where is the fire? Is there a fire? Which fire do I start with? one catastrophe at a time. This sort of more practical, systematic approach to managing chaos and managing anxiety and different tasks.
I went to the lake again yesterday, all day yesterday. Took off and reorientated myself with my pain.
Yeah. You're giving yourself more time to get a break, physical space that is restorative to you, and a place you can reflect and try to center, ground yourself so you can go back into the chaotic world with more of a gas tank, with more charge.
Yes.
Pretty basic and sort of almost too boring. It's hard to cheerlead, like, well, oh, you took space for yourself. You discovered some stuff and then you re-engage with the world. It seems so obvious. Oh. I'm trying to figure out how to link it to the theme. So.
Thank you, Keith.
Yeah. Because the problem of giving too many success stories is now I haven't defined the problem. So I almost have to amplify a problem to create some excitement and then offer a solution. Now that there's like solution examples, if I go back to the problem, it's like a killjoy. So where do we go from here?
The next step.
The next step.
Isn't that what you said last week? The next step.
What's the next step? Oh, that's a mental focus strategy. Let's see. Okay, let's go to 3. So there's something called self-determination theory, which is based on research, and it's come up with like 3 categories of self-determination. And if somebody is working on these 3 categories as a theme towards their goal, then they're motivated. Then they have natural motivation. They have intrinsic motivation. They're able to determine their future. They're able to set goals and define things. And if you aren't addressing these 3 basic needs, then your motivation might be a bit fragmented, aimless, confused, dissociated. And this simple model is also good to evaluate your therapist, your healing journey, your current growth process. Are you trying to address these 3 needs? So, number 1 is autonomy. So, are you taking agency and are you making decisions that are active towards your goals? Are you reflecting in your anxiety and your pain to discover, why do you care? What do you want? What matters to you? What are you going to do with your life? And then when you have some sort of life direction and some sort of sense of control and sense of separateness, then you have feelings of autonomy. The opposite might be if you're going to different groups and you're judging yourself by saying, oh, this isn't good enough, and then this group tells you got to fix this. There's all these negative repair type focuses. That's letting somebody else define your autonomy, letting someone else define your motivation. Or you're focused, oh, the narcissist here abused me, and oh, this person wasn't good enough. These are all backwards strategies that isn't autonomy. You're not an agent.
Can you reach autonomy, like when you're in the flashback, you don't have that autonomy, but to recover that autonomy, you have to like wait for an hour or two. It takes at least some time until you get that out, having that
Of the
space to get,
flashback. Out of the
yeah,
flashback.
and then get some autonomy, not just merging with the person who's beside you.
Is autonomy totally gone when you're in a flashback or you're merging with someone else?
I don't know.
You might not be autonomous in shared reality. I'll start there. I'll meet you there. But if flashbacks and merging with other people is your norm, it's how your nervous system is wired, that's where you have to start. So then, in the flashback, can you manage autonomy of having decisions and choices of navigating being stuck for 2 hours in a flashback, or whatever your pattern is?
Isn't that difficult? While in the
Yeah,
flashback.
no one said autonomy is easy. Did anyone think that? And you don't need to reach autonomy 100%. You just need to get a little better oriented in the flashback, outside of the flashback, finding a way to see patterns. All of that, just little baby steps, increases your sense of autonomy. This is just a counter perspective. You're welcome to throw another counter or say it doesn't work, and that's part of autonomy. You make an assertion, I make an assertion, we battle it out, and we try to get a better decision. That's all autonomy is.
When you're in that merger state, like it's sometimes like the person I'm merged to, she has her autonomy. Let's say it can be my mother, and I have my autonomy. So it's like sometimes it goes through a battle, like whose autonomy, whose decision should be first.
Okay.
And
I think this could be sliced more for your issue. It's an issue of differentiation of self. That's more of the distance to be separate and different. So autonomy, you might still be able to navigate within merging with her if you're curious enough. On the flip side, managing interactions with her so that you don't get enmeshed and lost in this sort of battle of who's dominant, that skill would be differentiation. Are you following that?
so in that moment, like the first thing that comes to my mind is how can we just get a bridge between her and me so we can be on the same page and do the same thing. Is that
why do you both have to be on the same page and do the same thing? Why isn't there space for difference? Why is it only space for sameness?
It's
hard. I'm not saying it's easy. Yeah, differentiation's hard, but I think you have this decision making where you don't see that you can try to assert a little bit of difference or try to build this muscle of difference.
Yeah.
So here's a clip. So your question allowed me to pivot to a clip. Or Kelly, we got him to get to a point of some control and some say. That's a nice other clip. Let's see.
Do have some control and some say. Do have some control and some say.
So this is a baby step for Kelly way back when.
Control in Team Safe.
Now he's much further, so that's probably a little embarrassing. But differentiation of self is maybe a more practical flavor of autonomy, and it's also linked to competence. So combining autonomy and competence might be differentiation of self, managing psychological distance. Mentalizing also is psychological distance. Building observing ego. So. Let's revisit Bowen theory because it's a nice model that talks about anxiety and also talks about systemic way of viewing family relationships and interpersonal stuff. And they have a nice model about differentiation of self. And we'll see if this helps Steve.
This is a fully differentiated person. They can separate out their thoughts, feelings, self, and other. That means that they can have thoughts about their feelings and feelings about their thoughts, and as a result, they respond to life based on all the information they can get. There's nice, healthy boundaries between self and other, and that means that their relationships tend to be rich and satisfying. And this is an undifferentiated person. Their thoughts, feelings, self, and other are a hot mess.
But it's a nice round globe. I don't know why that's a hot mess. It's good if everything's all in one ball. It's a globe. It's circular, solid. It's round. Set a square. Who wants to be the square?
Because thoughts and feelings are not separated, they tend to react to life rather than respond. And the boundaries between self and other are blurry, which means their relationships tend to be complicated. This is chronic anxiety. When we can separate out our thoughts, feelings, self, and other, there's not really that much room for chronic anxiety. But when we're undifferentiated, we can carry so much more. The more chronic anxiety we have, the more likely we are to be reactive and engage in unhealthy patterns of behavior, especially in relationships.
So there's a two-step program to advocate for getting better with chronic anxiety. That was the earlier part of this meeting. And then on the flip side, if you have more differentiation of self, there's less space in your cup that's holding all this excess chronic anxiety. Because just by definition, having more differentiation of self, things are orderly in your world. Self and other is more distinct. Feelings and thoughts are more distinct. You're able to navigate and sort through things and state your boundaries and recognize other people's boundaries and deal with those conflicts of needs and wants in a more orderly fashion. But if you're undifferentiated, you're just drowning in chronic anxiety with someone else, which is green. It might be green Kool-Aid. Maybe it's yummy. I don't know. So you just gotta learn how to drink anxiety more. So some tips on how to differentiate self and other.
That an undifferentiated person has overlapping thoughts, feelings, self, and other. This person has a lot of difficulty separating out thoughts, feelings, self, and other compared to the differentiated person. The boundary around this person is porous. They are more prone to being influenced by people around them.
So if you're undifferentiated, you and mother might feel like the same person. So then you're enmeshed, and then yes, it's hard to feel like you have autonomy or choices or space to have a different opinion. But instead of looking at the other person you're merging as a bad person, as a person to fix, is there space to recognize that maybe you could try to build your skill of differentiation? Could that give you a sense of competence and autonomy?
When you're in the moment, you win that you just separate from your mother, go to another room, or get to a seat, try to do some kind of yogic breathing, and then coming out of it and again try to re-engage with her in a more autonomous fashion. If
she is one of your biggest triggers, You want to practice in a less triggering, enmeshed environment. Yes. Just like any other endeavor, if you want to like tackle some sport or some adventure, you want to do smaller challenges, and you don't want to take on the biggest challenge, because if you take on the biggest challenge without your skill developed, are you likely to fail? Because you want to build your skills up gradually before you take on the giant monster.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So it's okay if you have a goal of trying to just, take this skill and instantly apply it to your most difficult relationship. Yes, you can try that, but you'll probably fail. It'll be exciting though. Yeah. So yes, you can do it gradually through gradual exposure, or you can practice with smaller monsters and then slowly build up the skill. Yeah. That'd be my suggestion, but I suggest boring stuff. Maybe I've mellowed out. I also suggest crazy stuff, so depends on my mood. So, yeah. But some more tips. Let's see what else you might have to offer.
So we have an internalized version of ourself, a chronological sense of ourself that tells a story of ourself over time. It includes how we've...
So this is a healthy self. Most codependents don't have this, and he'll describe that next. So a healthier self has like a narrative that's connected over time, the story matches, and you don't get flooded by other people's stuff and lose yourself all the time. But this is developing a healthy self is important. But recognize that's something to work on also.
Changed, how we've grown, what we like, what we believe in, and this all contributes to some version of our identity and our sense of self. Very disturbed people with severe mental illness.
This is more so codependent and survivor sense of self. It's like this. It's a lot more exciting. Trauma bonding is here. This is a fun sense of self.
Don't have a stable sense of self. And actually part of therapy with them is to help them integrate and stabilize their sense of self. Now, having a stable sense of self allows us to be in relationship with other people.
So after you have a stable sense of self with orderly time or an observing ego, in ISTDP terms, then you can see an other person as a separate other. Imagine that. So you can have a differentiated self and other and be able to mentalize and make working memory space for a self and other. Long-term goal. Yes. Short-term, you want to build a separate self and get yourself aligned and not get lost in flashbacks. But long-term, you can build this muscle of differentiation of self. And then have space for a self and another, and have space for feelings and thoughts as separate things. They're not just linked together in psychoequivalence mode, which is also exciting. But it's hard to navigate. So when you have your thoughts and feelings with different categories and spaces, you can hold space for other people to have other thoughts and feelings that are different than yours. And then you can collaborate and communicate with people in broader interactions and issues.
And that is because we have an internalized representation of people that we are closest to in our lives, and I call that other. So with an internalized sense of self and an internalized sense of other, I can remember who I'm in a relationship with, and I can remember important people in my life.
So when you have an internalized other that you can remember without that person in your presence, you've now made the progress of object permanence. I think that's object relations term. So you've gone from just transition object to an internalized memory of somebody else. And that creates a sense of continuity over time of a relationship. So then abandonment terror should go down because now you can remember some level of permanence of other people. It's described a bit simple here, but that's part of how object relations and other pointers are describing a sense of self and all that other stuff.
Helping people not be enmeshed. Much like thoughts and feelings, asking people to speak from an I position is a way of helping them separate out self from other. In effect, I'm asking them not to assume that their partner, their son, their daughter, the child has the same feeling as them, because to do so would imply that you know what your family members think without asking them. Using I statements is a pretty solid intervention to get people to begin to separate out self from other.
So the I statement was an argument that came up in person, but also this I position is a bit unclear because you can make I statements that aren't from the I position. So I think I position is a bit confusing, so I usually like to say ownership or proper pronoun use. So a lot of times codependents are good at using statements from vague positions. Okay, like, I feel fucked up now. That's a solid owning. Yeah, see? We have to learn how to state a position that's localized. Where's it coming from? So, we don't have William here, but since William came back, I can use this clip because this is from March. And this sort of shows how I'm arguing that he's not using an I position of stating an argument from his personal investment. And then I contrast it with a fully flooded statement from my position. So this could be a bit passionate, but this is trying to illustrate as you get self and other, you can now flood excitement and drama from the I position towards the other. And now you can have a dramatic, exciting argument with other people to try to figure out what's going on. Or in this conversation is trying to say, what is the definition of passion? Should love be passionate? Or should love be some disconnected, cerebral narcissist flavor? Or whatever he was arguing. This is from March this year.
For me, like the vibe check of it is off. Like I don't see love as necessarily like possession.
You see it more as
it's patience and
what's
kindness.
your counter?
So
It depends on your definition of hate. What's the purpose? What's the goal?
Exactly. Like what would cause you to hate?
So when I ask people what's your counter, that's me coding people to say, make a counter statement from an I position with ownership. Apparently, people didn't understand my meaning of what's a counter, because people don't give me counters when I say, what's your counter? They don't own a position, and they argue something from somebody else's position. And that's a safer way of arguing, but that doesn't build your differentiation of self. That doesn't help localize you and the other person. You have no skin in the game. So let's see if he puts some skin in the game or not.
In love.
Because they have some fucking annoying...
Exactly. Like what would cause you to hate in love?
So he wants to define hatred out of love. Take out the passion of love? What kind of fucked up thing? Because they have some fucking annoying tick or something that was totally attractive when you were dating them. And now that you're dealing with it every day for whatever, that attractive whatever is now something you hate.
You're in trouble. You're in trouble. Your marriage is in trouble, you know?
But that doesn't mean that they don't have other positive qualities that you mixed love feelings you enjoy.
Yep. Hey, going back to Sam Vaknin, he says love is about self-awareness. Like you see yourself in your other partner. To him, his definition of love seems to be like different from your kind of, hate, passion, and love coming together.
Sure. So he's not arguing, he's not saying if he agrees to Sam Vaknin's position. He's not being specific to share the contrast, to counter. He's making a statement that obscures his position. There's no I position in his statement. It's just a sabotage, dismissive attempt which we allow too much now. We allow bratting, we allow sabotage, we allow dismissiveness, we allow shaming people, saying that's not good enough. And that's all we do for connection. Then we complain that we're isolated and lonely. We're not meeting people. This is artificial connection. We're saying, oh, Sam Vaknin has this idea, and it doesn't need to match yours. Well, I'm not talking to Sam. He's not in the room. And do you agree with Sam's position? I don't even know if he even likes Sam's whatever. Does he even understand it?
But when the person is in anxiety, so is it safe to actually join with their anxiety in the moment?
When someone else is in anxiety, is it safe to join them in anxiety? What's your goal? And what's the problem?
My goal is...
What's the situation?
The situation is, like yesterday I was with my mom. We went to the hospital.
Oh, you were with your mom yesterday, okay?
Yeah, the last night situation was quite hectic. So it was, I have a younger cousin. So he suddenly had fever. He had high degree fever, 104 degrees Celsius to 105 degrees Celsius. So he went to the bathroom.
This question is started with, like, is it safe to join someone in anxiety? And then now you're saying, yesterday you were with your mom and someone had a big fever.
Yeah. So for the fever, we took the guy to the hospital. So when we were coming out, my mom, we all went to a grocery store. It was midnight.
Grocery store. Yeah. Okay. Groceries. Okay.
We were planning to buy some food for the person who had
the fever.
Who had the fever.
Okay.
The dengue fever.
Sure. Yeah. He must be hungry. That's what happens when you have a fever. Maybe.
He didn't eat.
Oh no, probably not hungry. Okay. I don't know how to treat fever people. Okay. Where's the anxiety? It's the question.
So she was arguing with what to buy.
Okay.
So whether to buy this piece of bread or a whole bunch of breads or some fever snacks such as apples or oranges. So she could take them home. So I was just
apples, oranges. Argument. Okay.
Yeah. But at the same time, there was some kind of urgency. We already booked a taxi.
Yes.
So the
urgency, anxiety. Yeah.
The taxi was waiting outside for us. So I was like going to her, like, please pick anything, pick the apples, pick this, but hurry up. And she was like, wait a minute, you're not listening. You're not, I need this to be perfect.
Okay, she's focused on perfection and you're focused on getting it done faster. That's the difference of priorities. Okay?
Yeah.
How does that link to your question of, is it safe to join someone in anxiety or not?
I joined with her anxiety, but at the same time, it was like, I had to give in. Like, she got her way. You go your way, just get the apples, get this, so that we can get to the taxi and get home.
Yeah. So.
But was it right? Was it right? Like, is it okay, like, to jump like this, or how do I get it?
Yes, 100% it's okay.
Okay.
I grant you a certificate of okayness. Is that what you wanted?
No, it was like...
You had urgency. You wanted her to decide fast. She had seniority, because she's the parent, and she wanted it done perfectly. She got her way. But why did you need to merge with her anxiety? Why couldn't you just say, okay, I give up. Go. What? What do you care about apples and fruit for a fever person that's not even hungry?
Yeah.
Were you paying? Is it coming out of your pocket? Is that why you're so invested in with anxiety?
I was. It
Do
didn't come
grocery
out of
stores
my-
make you anxious? What? I mean, what? Why are you so invested in this interaction?
Ah,
Is this bringing anxiety, asking you why you were anxious?
no, it was night. It was at 1 o'clock, and
Maybe you're sleepy. Okay. It's tiring. Okay.
we needed to get back home. Like the caretaker, they already like they will be annoyed.
You were
like,
worried about the caretaker being angry at you or something, or losing face because of coming home late.
Yeah. So
Yeah. And your mom
Yeah.
didn't care about that. So you had two different priorities. That's why you felt unheard.
yeah, I felt unheard, and
Yeah.
her priority was something else.
So
Yeah.
next time, when you're frustrated in this situation, pull out an apple and throw it at your mom's face.
Pull out an apple and throw it at her.
Yes.
Why? What's the point in that?
'Cause I want to hear the story.
Full of punkage. Full of punkage. Get the rock. Get the rock. I gotta go to the bathroom now.
Okay.
I think the problem is that you had a different priority than her. It's not about you merging anxiety with her and communicating all this stuff. She's going to be her. And parents don't listen to kids often, so you trying to get her to care about your shit, that's a lost cause. So might as well throw fruit at her face. Or in her stomach or something. Just throw it at a random person. Throw it at the person with a fever. He's already suffering. Actually, learn to be a comedian. There you go. So tell a good joke to your mother. Get her laughing. And then push her, buy this fruit and then push her into the car or taxi. You're good.
Juggle apples. That.
Yeah, juggle the apples and do a trick and make her laugh. And then she'll cave to your anxiety. Try that.
Okay.
But I'm confused at how this clip triggered that memory. That is rather weird link. Was it Sam Vaknin? Him referring to Sam Vaknin made you think about your mother buying fruit for someone with fever?
No, I was thinking about the separation. Like, was separation related to this separation? Like, if I separated more, I would have.
Oh, you're still
taken
thinking
it.
about differentiation. Oh, you're in time distortion. Okay, yeah, that happens.
Some time distortion.
So the group is moving at a certain time track. Then some people take more time to digest stuff. So the differentiation hits you 10 minutes later, but the rest of the group is on, let's revisit William, and you throw in something that's based on a prior video clip. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's time distortion.
Yeah, that's time distortion, and it takes a while to get your time signatures in sync and to join in shared time with other people. But I gave you 2 tips, or 3 tips, I don't know. I gave you a tip to throw an apple at her face. Or you could throw a fruit at the fever person. Or you can juggle fruit and tell her a joke and then shove her into the taxi. So I gave you at least 4 tips.
How about I do the grocery for her?
Yeah, you could just exclude her from the decision process. That's another way, yeah. Or you could just lie and say you already bought it and then just go home and just like stiff the fever person because they're probably not hungry anyways. So. So you have many options as long as you get away from the anxiety where he's like going, this person or that person has to decide. If you get some space, you see there's many different choices you have. That's having some more autonomy. Giving space to your anxiety, talking out some of the options, now you have more decisions you can make. You feel more autonomous in the next engagement.
Yeah. That's brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah. And if you can't get an apple, you can always throw a shoe. But I think that's escalating in Asian or Indian cultures to throw shoes at people. It's more insulting.
I'll not try that. That's super.
Yeah, that's taboo. Yeah, shoes. But if you're really pissed off, throw shoes at people. Yeah. I hear. Now recognize you're not paying for this advice, so if it goes bad, it's just for my entertainment. So that's the disclaimer. Just like this fight was for my entertainment, so that's...
Like for me, I just feel like his definition of love was more...
Okay, there's his I position. For me, I like his definition a bit more than yours.
More relatable to me than your definition of love, which is...
Yes,
hate,
my
passion,
definition of love, if I had you in a ring, I would just keep punching the shit out of you until the hatred comes out. And once you're... That's a shortcut to advocate that you have an impulsive desire to protect yourself, and that comes out of hate. So one way to prove that his love and passion would work would be to punch the shit out of him. So then he has hate. Then he sees how hate and love is linked. Because he's talking about a fragmented perspective of love versus the lived experience of love and hate and passion. And quoting Sam Vaknin saying, "Oh, I like his position more. I still don't know why he cares to share this and take up all this space." Because this was like 30 minutes and I've cut it down to 4. So he took up a lot of space to argue this different position for whatever reason. If your hatred comes out, then I would find what you would be willing to endure more pain and death about, and then that would be your passion.
Fair enough.
I would beat your ego and your superego to a pulp. Then after that, I would stomp my foot on your neck and kill every single delicate part of you. Force an initiation.
With words.
Dig you apart till the deepest part of your soul. And the part of you that doesn't die after I stomp the shit out of your superego would be the real you.
I can kind of feel that.
Kind of feel that. That's pretty good, see? So I got through some of his defenses. Yes, but, see? That's the visceral part, because I had that through my initiation when I went 29 and had all of my years of attachment fall apart and have to self-isolate because my trauma story was too much for my friends to listen or witness to. Killing my faith in humanity and diving into the pit of despair and the free-fall void. So that's more of a real trauma. It's not something that you can virtue signal to bully other people to worship your trauma. Trauma is something that actually isolates you where you share it. Everyone runs away. Or they cover up your trauma if they're easier to describe trauma, because trauma is naturally isolating. Trauma might be an initiation opportunity to help you get to the next level of rebirth, but you have to go into the wilderness. Trauma sends you to the wilderness alone. So through those toils, I discovered the pain in my passion, not through some airy-fairy definition that a cerebral narcissist gave you. Remember Nancy talked about confidence is my description of love and passion, and my definition framing. Is that more solid and confident than...
I think it's solid and confident for you, especially.
See, if you get in trouble, you can do this sort of Zen-G or online thing like, oh, that's your position, and somehow that's dismissing somebody else. In person, the suspected narcissist, she said, oh, that's your opinion. And then I clarified, no, that's my perspective. Because people use like, oh, that's your opinion, I'll dismiss it.
For you.
That's not
I
what I was
wanted to throw it
framing.
out there that I would agree with your definition because it doesn't fit with mine.
I'm not asking if you agree. I don't give a damn if you agree. I'm saying, did you make a better argument?
I don't think so. I haven't said much.
He didn't say much because he didn't take a position. He didn't make a counter. We give people space to just throw shit over very concentrated, articulated work, and then we give that equal time. Why do we do this? I go, oh, every definition matters. No. Every argument matters. No. Every opinion matters. No. There's something that is a solid argument, and then there's just some nonsense counter. That is not equal. That is just broken thinking. You're not even thinking. You're just sabotaging shit.
Yeah.
No, you spent all that time to build up your argument. I saw it was coming. So I saw you were going to make a weak argument, and then I was getting ready to squash it down and destroy it.
You did a pretty good job.
Because that's powerful love. If your love can just be flip away, it has no grounding, has no punch.
Your passion's
That's
there.
not passion. So part of my passion was seeing your argument, hating it in advance, and planning how to destroy it with the most visceral, heavy hitting, so that you would feel it in your gut.
Because there's nothing as ugly as a pussy. A pussy argument, I mean. Yeah, sorry.
So, Steve, if you're fighting anxiety versus anxiety, the more crazy person tends to win. If you want to up your game with anxiety, you can fight it with passion. So if you connect your passion, you connect your hate, then you can just enjoy destroying a stupid argument. But some people are better at that or get more excitement from that than others. That's the advantage of making I statements from an I position and having a desire to fight and wrestle with truth by shaving away and cutting out and sorting out the noise and the lies and the unimportant stuff. If your healing journey doesn't include some level of discernment to sort through the noise and sort through stupid arguments, you're going to be lost all over the place because there's so much disinformation and stupid advice out there and incompetent therapists and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, I position, differentiation, a starting point. Part of this argument is, in order to heal from trauma, you have to own your victimhood. As a starting point. It's not saying it's an ending point. That's sort of where people start, like, oh, this is my ending point and this is my new identity. Let me go virtue signal my victimhood and join people in trauma and just nitpick other people from the sidelines and throw rocks. Inspired by Irene Mayan, who is a somatic body trauma teacher who is very hard to edit because she adds all these side things. But this is distilling her wisdom.
Someone said, I hated your post yesterday, made me really angry, but I love this and I love all you do. Here's the first thing. If something makes you angry or you get triggered, that does not necessarily mean that the piece of information is inaccurate.
But if you're Z generation, you can say, that made me angry, You're gaslighting me. This is a new logic and definition of gaslighting. You're saying something that makes my reality feel threatened. That's gaslighting. Or you just say, I'm angry, how dare you, and then you call the other person names and tell them to say something nicer. This is our new form of trauma in therapy. We attack people that give us information that makes us feel bad or gives us a flashback, and we call that boundary setting and all the other stuff. Self-care. We call it self-care. Attack people who say stuff that triggers you, and that's self-care. And that'll help build relationships and everything else, because attacking people's language is the secret to everything.
It's like a mom putting down a boundary with her 5-year-old. That kid might get angry, but it doesn't necessarily mean that mom is wrong. This is not how we do this. This is right from wrong. If something or someone triggers or activates you, that doesn't necessarily mean that the situation is incorrect. This is what I say.
Oh, also, we attack the messenger. That's a counter tactic, or this argument tactic. If you can't attack the message, attack the messenger. That's how people do YouTube troll comments. They don't like something, they attack the messenger, they attack the little thing. They don't like something here, they attack me, they attack the teachings, and then they disappear and leave me forever. I invest my heart and soul, and then, oh, this one flaw, Deef did this, Deef's triggered and is hurt forever, and then backstory thing, and then disappear and leave me. Someone who's like, has abandonment terror somehow doesn't mind giving other people abandonment terror.
So. Acknowledging you've lived through trauma and survived it is humanity. There's nothing special about it. When we make it extra special, we...
Oh, trigger warning. This might trigger some people. And someone will care. And I'll try not to throw an apple at your face.
Fall into victim identification without even realizing it. Without even realizing it.
So when we give somebody who's a victim and traumatized too much specialness, you're rewarding victim identification. Your behavior is almost encouraging people to stay victim identified. So now they're using their creative energy to articulate and present themselves as a victim instead of using their creative energy to learn from the victimhood, to grow and get reborn as their next self. Victim status becomes a social strategy. It becomes a safe social strategy, because when people get too close and trigger your flashbacks, you can set a boundary and say, oh, I'm hurt, you need to stop doing that. So now you can have artificial intimacy. And then you can divorce people when anything is too uncomfortable, and because you've identified with victim. And then you can call it repetition compulsion too.
We all have the capacity to heal, but not everyone will. He would say, the reason I know this person is going to be okay, they're not identifying as a victim. They know that they've been abused. They know that what was done to them was wrong. They know they've survived. A person who is still in identifying as being that victim will not heal without even realizing it. They might grow a bit of capacity, a bit of awareness. A lot of those comments, people didn't like it. Maybe it triggered something deep in the system that knows, holy cow, maybe I am playing the victim card.
So another thing the support groups are advocating is you're trying to numb your reaction. So any trigger, you try to just shut down and stay in this dissociated numb state. Where a more adaptive approach is like, oh, this thing destabilized me. this person, this incident, this statement. Maybe that's worth investigating. This is something that wakes up my passion. This is something that opens up my heart. This is something that motivates me to do something. And then you could try to direct that desire, that passion, that drive towards something productive.
Write this out. Vocalizing this can be very powerful. I'm alive. I survived and I'm here. I'm alive. I survived, and that's where it's at. But someone might be like,
I'm alive, I survived, I'm here. An obvious statement, but sometimes telling yourself this instead of saying, I'm a victim and I'm scared of flashbacks forever, and I don't want to get triggered again, and it's so scary, and I feel too much anxiety. You're not validating your survival instinct of saying, fuck, I didn't die. Fuck, I still have all my limbs. Or most of them. Fuck, I'm still pretty together. I can still eat or whatever. Count what survived. Anchor that and then try to move forward. But that's also owning what's right now.
I'm alive, I survive, and fuck yeah, I'm here and I'm real. There might be a different way that you express that. Might be with a roar.
I'm real.
There can be massive emotion that comes out. Those athletes provided with me an imprint of the feeling of seeing someone who has accepted their disability or their circumstance and is living versus someone who has not and is essentially living in dread and fear and survival. Victim identification without even realizing it. Dread and fear and survival.
I think she could be more positive with her tone of dread, fear, and survival. I think she was a bit too scary. She should have said it more numb and flat for the potential traumatized victims that would be hearing that. She was a bit too judgmental with the term dread, fear, and anxiety, I think.
Victim identification without even realizing it. Dread and fear and survival.
Dread, fear, and survival. Yeah, she could have said that more sugary. I will try to comment on her post and try to tell her to get her tone in check for the traumatized audience that's listening to her lack of cheerleading. What's our time? 9:10. It's a bit disorganized of an approach. So let's summarize with a case study. This is something recent from a week or two ago. A week, I think. A week ago. This is an update of Richard Grannon's current state.
Do codependents have broken relationships?
Let's see. This is from his live stream this week. This is a Q&A. Do codependents have a broken relationship with reality?
Do codependents have a broken relationship with reality? No, except for the reality of love, except for the reality of intimate relationships. They do. Intimate relationships. They do. Except for the reality of love.
So then they complain about isolation belonging. So there is a fantasy relationship with intimacy. So this is his current status from this week. This is what happened over the summer. He leaked it out in 13 seconds, so you have to really pay attention because he only tells the truth in these little side comments.
June, and then I got like physical problems. I got quite sick physically and then got sick mentally because I wasn't sleeping. And that was that.
So in June, he got sick physically and mentally, and he went back in therapy. That's another clip I don't have ready. And he went to his insomnia, which has been a pattern from prior summers or prior breakups. So let's play this back. This is just from this last week. 13 seconds.
June, and then I got like physical problems. I got quite sick physically, and then got sick mentally because I wasn't sleeping, and that was that.
This is from January, so 8-9 months ago.
I'm focusing on what I do want in a structured, disciplined way because it doesn't happen naturally. I wouldn't spontaneously focus on what I wanted. I had to teach myself. I'm still teaching myself to do that. But even in this awkward, belabored, artificial way, after this year has gone by, there are multiple relationships that have dropped off. I didn't mean for them to disappear. I didn't mean to end them. But they dropped off when I stuck to my guns and focused on my values and what I wanted. What I would say with these relationships that have spontaneously dropped off in 2022, well, my experience, they just atrophied and fell away.
They just dropped off. You didn't have
is
any
they were
part of
asymmetrical,
it.
and I wasn't being honest within them. I wasn't being my authentic self. I was fawning and I was overgiving. And then when I stopped doing that, these people were just like, F you, Richard. Like, they got really, really angry. And I was like, oh, okay, well, if you're going to be angry with me for being me, ta-ra. Like professional relationships, personal relationships, they got really, really angry. Professional relationships, they got really, really angry. Personal relationships, they got really, really angry. F you, Richard. And I was like, oh, okay, well, if you're going to be angry with me for being me, if you're going to be angry with me, ta-ra. If you're going to be angry with me, ta-ra. If you're going to be angry with me, ta-ra.
Is there any curiosity of maybe how he contributed, or maybe the friend had some problems? No, just dismissive assholeness. In this defensive posture, he can reject a person and feel powerful, but 6 to 8 months later, what happens? He becomes sick.
June, and then I got like physical problems. I got quite sick physically, and then got sick mentally because I wasn't sleeping, and that was that.
You say fuck you to all your current old relationships. You got to make new ones. And the new people will reject you or manipulate you, and then you'll get mentally ill again. Let's go back to January. Because it's not really what people say, it's what people say and what kind of results do they get. So, January, Richard Grennan. Look at this boast.
To look forward into the future so that you're naturally and spontaneously focusing on what you do want, as it turns out, happens to be a really good way of developing boundaries. I didn't know this. I started doing this a few months ago, and there is no way on this earth that I could be called a codependent.
Be careful what you claim, especially publicly, because 6 to 8 months later, you might fall on your face.
At this point. Now, you may remember at the beginning of this year, and even last year in 2022, I was doing videos.
2022?
I know how to help you overcome CPTSD, codependency. I don't know what to do. It turns out that simply becoming focused on what you do want and then just moving towards it, in my case at least, was the piece of the puzzle that helped me to overcome codependency. Nobody could call me a codependent at this point in my life. And I wasn't thinking boundaries. I wasn't thinking childhood trauma. I wasn't thinking attachment styles or even particularly emotional literacy.
He wasn't thinking.
I want what I want. You know, in a righteous way, in a good way. Like, I know it's good for me. I know it's good for my family. I know it's in alignment with my values. I'm not hurting anybody. I'm not doing any damage in the world. But this massively improved my boundaries.
So happy.
In 2023, and massively helped me to overcome the sort of addictive, weird tendency to fawn, to seek to please other people, to just say yes when I should have said no.
So this is a shortcut way of thinking. It's like, oh, my fawn social strategy has downsides. Let me just say, fuck that. Let me just be an asshole and just ignore everybody else's needs. That's going to make me not codependent, and somehow that's going to make me happy. The world is just going to cave to my narcissism and my selfishness because I'm not codependent anymore. The social landscape is not that easy. You can't just say, fuck this strategy, and then magically you have a successful social strategy.
I just spontaneously found myself either saying no, or maybe even more powerfully, I'm not sure because I haven't figured it out yet. It's just saying nothing. So I would get these covert requests from people
Absencing.
like, do this for me, do this for me, do this for me, or make me okay, or support me, or comfort me. And because I was focused on what I wanted, I'd just be like that.
Fuck you.
I'm not doing that. I'm doing that weird stuff. And it really registered to me as weird.
I
was
felt
like,
good.
I'm not asking you for that. Like, you're an adult, same as me. Like, I'm not asking you. I'm not your mummy. I'm not asking you to be my mummy. Like, what are we doing here? My subjective experience, this made a huge difference. Massive difference. I was just like, you're not in alignment with my values. You're not in alignment with what I want. And that's it. For me in my own life, when I started focusing more on what I wanted and made a committed effort towards that,
magic.
All the codependent elements in me seemed to dry up. As I said, at the beginning of this year, I was like, I think I'm a codependent for life. At the end of this year, it would be laughable to suggest that I'm a codependent. Laughable. And the only thing I did was that. I just got into, what do I want? What am I focused on? How do I have a voice? How do I also say, I'd like this, please? I want to move in this direction, please. That's all I did.
So this is a sign of lack of differentiation because you had a thought and the feeling that was mixed. And it was messed up with time. And this is something that maybe a young person thinks like this, not an adult. And maybe a young person that is at a certain age of an emission from a little over a year ago, June 2022.
Inside, I'm still about 12 years old. Who's the ultra popular cartoonish characterization of a toxically masculine male who's trending right now?
You, Richard.
Me, Richard Grannon. Pierre said pushing back and positioning, and I giggled because inside, I'm still about 12 years old. Inside, I'm still about 12 years old. These young men were pushing back and positioning.
Yeah.
12 years old.
Jesus Christ.
It was called Spartan Life Coach for a reason. Everybody's like, oh, the Spartan's so cool. I'm like, you don't know your history, do you, darlings? 12 years old. Cartoonish characterization of a toxically masculine male. Inside, I'm still about 12 years old. 12 years old.
Happy here, lost relationships with Pierre and Sam and who else? Who knows? And then the recent status of Richard.
June, and then I got like physical problems. I got quite sick physically and then got sick mentally because I wasn't sleeping. And that was that. That was that.
So if we follow other people that sound convincing, because they have psychic equivalents, they talk confidently, and they talk from their thought distortion, and they talk emphatically and emotionally, and they talk from a 12-year-old sexy space. It's endearing. It's motivating. It feels good. It feels like, psychic masturbation, because that's sort of that space. And that's validating fantasy defenses. And that's creating an artificial relatedness. You didn't get to number 3. But the skill of relatedness. Are you able to collaborate with others? Are you able to keep up in shared time? Are you able to build trust and respect and get some shit done with other people? Do you have that level of belonging? Or do you regress to infant pedophilia energy and then you masturbate with other people and that's your way of belonging? And you get all giddy in that mode, but eventually you can't sleep because the negative memories of that childhood sex abuse comes. Then you cling to a fantasy favorite person relationship, and then that person abuses you. Then you gotta go into therapy again. Might be what's happening. Who knows? So... how do we close this off? How do we even start it? Okay, how about February 09? Revisit to enthusiasm. Maybe. Was this enthusiasm? Isn't there a way to have more life in reality? Shouldn't that be on the table? Why would you be satisfied with just being happy? Fuck that shit. Really? All you want is be happy and have stuff and go to places and have a fucking lifestyle? People find that satisfying? This mental health space feels like is just going nowhere. What else is there to explore? It's partially a false leader that more understanding and better framing, more truth is going to make a difference. If people don't have the passion, if people aren't willing to face whatever they're willing to face, the rest of the stuff isn't really going to do that much. Maybe mental health is trying to create neurotic people that are addicted to therapists, are addicted to this space. This space has gotten big enough that it's creating its own survival, parasitic, codependent relationship. Why is he laughing at that? How mean of a person. Laughing at people's suffering? That is, like, disgusting. Man.
Where is the fucking compassion to just say, wow, you know, that's what's going on in her world? Where is the fucking compassion? Where is the fucking compassion? Where is the fucking compassion? Where is the fucking compassion to just